place, Arlington, was a little bit of crazy, a lot of fun, hard work. It's really where I think you develop who you are going to be in the future. You had so many options and so many things available to you that it really allowed you to prepare for the future and be exposed to ideas and new things.
When you're a student, you don't have a lot of memories of classroom activities unless you were goofing off, but like the lunchroom, we had such a good time at lunchtime. I remember going down to that lunchroom. We'd put banana peels on the bottom of chairs and we'd give people rides across the lunchroom on that tile floor, so that was a lot of fun. That's something that I remember.
I remember walking down the tunnel. For those of us who were in band, we had tunnel call, and it was hotter than heck. We were in the tunnel and we'd say, "Who are we? We are the Cardinals," and the drums would obliterate our eardrums. And once we finally got outside in the cold fall night, it was wonderful. It was so much fun.
The fondest memory is just the absolute memory of the fun and the warmth and the friendship that flowed through this school all 4 years that we were here together.
We had so many different groups of people, but you never felt like you couldn't cross into one of those other groups to attend one of their parties, to be in class with somebody. You could always speak to anybody and not feel like it was a clique or there was just a lot of movement amongst groups.
And I don't recall any derogatory comments or any kind of action that way against a kid who was on a debate team and a national champion. That he was a nerd because he was in debate. The kids kind of hung together and they supported each other in the things that they were doing and that they did well.
Our freshman year was the year that we went downstate in basketball. So that brought us even closer together. People you didn't even know, are painting you red. I mean, I remember having a t-shirt made with whoosh on it because that was the big thing, at the free throw line.
One of my favorite things as far as being with the basketball team, going downstate, and then the following years where we had success as well. Just getting ready for those games, knowing that there'd be a great crowd every night, that they'd be out there supporting you, and just the excitement that you have as a high school player, going out and being able to play in front of crowds and feeling like the games were meaningful and that it was a lot of fun.
In 1982, the red-hot varsity team dominated the Mid-Suburban League and then secured Elite Eight status by defeating Highland Park with a score of 68-59. A rally was held at Circle Drive and the Cards set off for the tournament at the University of Illinois. Arlington eventually lost to state championship winners East St. Louis on March 19, 1982. Despite this disappointing result, the team's success unified all classes of Arlington students.
For freshmen, that's the greatest experience. They didn't care, seniors didn't care if you were a freshman, or no one cared where you were at in the class. We're just all together cheering for our team going downstate, and that really brought us together. And that was the same year they started talking about closing us.
Though a decline in student enrollment across District 214 pointed to the likelihood that one or more schools would be closed, Arlington students and faculty were stunned to learn that the school board considered the Venerable Lady in Red to be a top candidate for closure. Principal John Rowe recalls the difficult months leading up to the final decision.
The Board of Education had compared all the schools against the chosen criteria for closing. And Arlington did not come in number 1 schools to close. We came in number 4. They chose to close us despite their findings of their survey. The citizens in town took it to court. And of course the court ruled eventually after a year or so. The court ruled in favor of the school board, which they generally do. So the school board was then able to close any school they wanted in the district, and they closed Arlington High School.
It was so cathartic. Nothing took more out of us or consumed more of our time and attention than that single act.
I was pretty saddened when the building was going to close, but it was my job to keep the kids upbeat a little bit, as much as you can. To me it felt like somebody died in the family, and it was a pallor. So you had to go around and boost kids a little bit.
They were all being split up into 3 different schools, as I recall, which was not easy for them, not easy for the families. This wasn't easy for the community.
I started a program where I had students working out in the community, and so I was in touch with a lot of the businessmen in town, and it was very difficult for them to accept the closing of the school. because they felt that this was an important vehicle for the children.
All throughout the town, there were signs and windows. People tied red ribbons around their trees in front. And literally at a certain point during my junior year, when you drove around Arlington Heights, which is a big suburb, it seemed like virtually every tree, every street that you drove down had a red ribbon on it.
It was just a wonderful way to show support. I know that the ribbons in my neighborhood stayed up a long time, and it was just a nice way to, at a glance, know that, you know, support was there, and we were still thinking about Arlington and the people in it.
I can't help but saying I think it was a terrible disservice to the community. And that's my opinion, which I think is shared by many. You know, let me just say it was like ripping the heart out of the town.
But the moment that it became evident that there was nothing else we could do, the whole spirit changed. And everybody really rallied together and decided that we were just going to make a great example to the community of our school and show them that we could be classy and we could accept our fate, and that we could really do what the school did so well, which is display a real sense of tradition and community right up to the last minute.
Because we shared it at a time when we had such a strong sense of community, to this day we share that sense of loss. And it's something you can't explain to somebody who didn't go to school here.
You try not to dwell on it, because otherwise it can affect your attitude about everything else. So you just deal with today. But the day it closed and we were all out there in the football field and having lunch, that was a bad day. It was a sad day.
Arlington was playing in the state softball tournament that exact day in June. And I usually always go to when we have teams playing in the state tournament. But that Friday I didn't, because I wanted to be here for this last day, and I drove over for the brief ceremony. Russ Addis read a poem, and then the student leaders said something, and the balloons, they let go of the balloons, and it was really, I mean, it was a very traumatic experience, because you could see it coming, but then it was finally here.
The thing I remember most about it is when the speech finished, I looked out in the crowd, and literally, I think every person was crying. And I remember we just spent that last hour or so after the speeches were done, after the ceremony was done, just hanging out there, and no one wanted to leave. And there were students hugging faculty, hugging parents, hugging the principal. Everyone was just there, you know, really having bonded and felt like they'd been through both a difficult experience and then a great one.
And I remember walking around the halls, and I mean, I would probably get choked up telling you this, because I've said this before at reunions and everything. And I remember John Rowe, who was the principal, you know, was asked, you know, his feelings, and he said, "I love this place. I just love this place."
John Rowe sort of guided us to the final day by setting up a sort of objective that this would be a simple, classy farewell. He sort of stands as a figurehead throughout those entire 4 years. He's one of those really rare individuals that you meet who has an incredible way with people, an incredible amount of foresight, an incredible amount of equanimity. I really, to this day, admire what he did in that time of conflict by keeping us sort of all focused on the good.
And then I think on graduation day, everybody it was almost somber. You know, it was exciting, but at the same time, you knew that was it. There really wasn't a whole lot of going back. Where a lot of other classes came back and visited and things like that, we weren't going to have that opportunity. So I think it was a mixed package, really, of what it meant to be the last class here at Arlington.
We really did have reason, you could say, to maybe go off the handle, and I'd have to give it credit to like everybody in the school that they didn't, and they showed class. And that really proves the true character of this school, I think.
Things really kind of gelled, and we became a family. And we could have tore the school apart and taken things off the walls. And
you could easily have the locker doors torn off, and you could have graffiti in the halls because people didn't care. It was just the opposite.
A couple of kids came in, "Mr. Bender, can I have my locker door?" And I said, "Well, let me talk to the principal about that." And a couple of them did take the locker doors, but not a whole lot, you know. They were class to the last.
Class to the last. I don't know, did you invent that? Some kid in
it was
student
the
council?
students. The students did.
But it truly was. It was a class act to the last day.